In the third vlog, we're going to be covering philosophy as natural. We become used to the idea that philosophy is some formal academic study of abstractions, and get disconnected from the fact that all humans in some way can be seen of as natural, spontaneous philosophers. Of course, all organisms grow and all organisms change. And we too are biological organisms. We have a genetic programming that is, in some sense, adapted to a particular environment or niche and responds as it develops to the contingent challenges and obstacles that present itself from the environment. However, humans have something extra, something that philosophers usually refer to as freedom, or the freedom to make free choices from reflective awareness. In other words, we don't just grow and develop because of a genetic programming and its relation to an environment. We also have the ability to reflect on our situation, to be aware of a particular situation, and become aware of a space of potentials which other organisms may not have the same access to. The important thing to think about in this phenomenon is that the human species and the growth of our species is mediated by a state of perpetual questioning. For a tree or a dog or any other organism, growth is just a type of imminent deployment of the genetic programming and its relation to the environment. But for a human being, what you will become is an enormous question, and it's not predetermined by any genetic program or even the environment. Through reflective awareness, you can choose to some degree what it is you become in the world. This means that the human species has access to a space of potentials or a space of ideals which constitute our very nature. Of course, when it comes to growth as questioning, and we ask ourselves, what can I really become and what should I become? This also opens up a new space of action that we normally refer to as ethics and morality. In this sense, philosophy as natural means that everyone in some sense develops a philosophy of life. Some with more sophistication than others, to be sure, but everyone grapples with those fundamental questions. What does it mean to be alive? What should I do with my time on Earth? All of these questions are, in essence, fundamental philosophical questions. And so if you've ever grappled with these questions, then in some sense you're just grappling with fundamental philosophy. When someone develops a worldview, then, we can say that this worldview is something that emerges as a praxis for life action that develops in relationship to big, fundamental philosophical questions. Now, we can't say, at least at the moment, that there's one way or one specific set of principles which found a worldview. A worldview is unique to each individual. It's not like there is one conceptual program that a human being could adopt to navigate through life. A conceptual program or a worldview is something that will emerge unique to every consciousness. In this way, when we think about the formation of worldviews in relationship to the biggest questions, helping us mediate and grow and become in the way that we want and in the way that we idealize, we can think about this as a type of paradox between becoming and eternal philosophy. Knowledge, and specifically philosophical knowledge, does not operate on a simple input and output function where you have a question and then an answer, and then the problem is done. What usually happens is that knowledge tends to repeat an impossible problem. What should I do with my life and how should I become are not questions that have a clear, definitive answer. They're in some sense impossible problems that a human being will grapple with at different stages of its life and at different times. This means that some of the biggest fundamental philosophical questions actually come to us in the form of paradoxes, contradictions, and unknowns. This means that we cannot have a clear input and output. We can't have a clear linear solution. Philosophical knowledge may be possibly fundamentally non-linear. The same questions will emerge, but in totally different contexts. And those different contexts will change the answers that we need for a particular problem of becoming. I hope that this episode on Philosophy as Natural introduced you to the idea that everyone is in some sense confronted with fundamental philosophical problems, and that by engaging with philosophy, we can have a more reflective understanding of our own becoming.